It's Tuesday, July 28th, AD 2026. This is the World View in 5 minutes, written by Kevin Swanson, Timothy Reed, and me, and heard on 140 radio stations and at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. The U.S. government is condemning the Islamic massacre of a Nigerian pastor's family in northern Nigeria that occurred earlier this month. 9 family members of Pastor Ezekiel Dochimo were killed in the recent attack. Pastor Dochimo was known throughout the country for his assigning blame to the Nigerian government for escalating violence against Nigerian Christians. According to Truth Nigeria, which first reported the killings, dozens of others were killed by radical Islamist groups in northern Nigeria on July 11th. President Donald Trump himself had reposted Pastor Dochimo's recent video, where he was crying out for international help while he stood in a mass grave of dead Christians. Some now suspect the Nigerian government as complicit in the murder of Pastor Dochimo's family as punishment for the video. And now, Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas has criticized the Nigerian government. On an X post, he wrote, quote, "Nigerian officials have created an environment that facilitates mass violence against Christians and religious minorities by imposing blasphemy and Sharia laws and looking the other way at jihadist atrocities. The U.S. government knows the Nigerian officials responsible for these policies. I have been pushing my bill to sanction them," end quote. Let us remember this sober spiritual lesson from Psalm 9, verse 17. "The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God." Meantime, Spain and France are suffering through the worst fires of the century, as 300,000 people have been evacuated so far. That's the largest evacuation since World War II, reports ABC News. Specifically, 13,566 fires have swept across 448 square miles in France. And in Spain, 591 square miles have burned this year, which is 6 times the amount that burned through the first half of 2025. It has resulted in the displacement of 250,000 French and 50,000 Spaniards. Are these fires connected to the national rejection of God's design? Spain approved of faux homosexual marriage in 2005, and France approved of sexually perverted marriages in 2013. Plus, homeschooling was also recently banned in France. The same has occurred in Sweden, Germany, and now the Netherlands. 2 months ago, the Netherlands' highest court ruled that parents can only claim the homeschool exemption if there is no suitable school nearby, virtually making it impossible to homeschool. And now England has also adopted a new restrictive homeschool law signed by King Charles III in April. According to the U.S.-based Homeschool Legal Defense Association, the new law, quote, grants local authorities the power to prevent families from homeschooling if officials believe a proposed home education program is unsuitable, end quote. Micah 3 verses 2-4 speaks of this tyranny. "And I said, Hear I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and you princes of the house of Israel, is it not for you to know judgment? You who hate the good and love the evil, who also eat the flesh of my people and flay their skin from off them? Then shall they cry unto the Lord, but he will not hear them." Nuclear power is coming to the Islamic world. The United States has signed an agreement with the Islamic State of Saudi Arabia, providing a legal framework for U.S. companies to participate in Saudi Arabia's civilian nuclear power program. The Muslim countries of Pakistan and Iran have already built a nuclear program. The Muslim-dominated countries of Turkey and Egypt are also in the process of building a nuclear program. Iran and South Korea began their nuclear program back in the 1970s, Pakistan in the 1960s, and now Turkey in 2018 and Egypt in 2022. Nicaragua's communist president Daniel Ortega has suspended his country's elections indefinitely. The Central American country continues to suffer under the iron grip of communism, And conservative outlet Human Events notes that, quote, Nicaragua's last election in 2021 was widely disputed after Ortega's government arrested opposition candidates, activists, and members of the business community ahead of the vote, end quote. Of the 43 nations in Latin America, Nicaragua has the second worst gross domestic product per capita, right next to the other communist country, Cuba, and also Haiti. California, Washington, and Oregon are already lit up in forest fires this season. That's well ahead of last year. In California, there are 3,338 wildfires, which have burned 195,000 acres. And in Oregon, 34 major blazes have burned 1.3 million acres, reports the Statesman Journal. Oregon has burned more acreage than last year, and the season's not over. Mostly, the fires have been started by an act of God, that is, lightning strikes, reports FoxWeather.com. The temporary protected status for hundreds of thousands of Haitians in America is expected to end this week, according to CBS News. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is preparing to launch operations to deport these immigrants, though there is still an option for immigrants to leave on their own. The Department of Homeland Security explained, quote, what we would say now is it's closing time, which means you do not have to go home, but you cannot stay here, end quote. Inflation fears have saddled the U.S. economy. 30-year U.S. bond yields are up to 5.2%. It's been 20 years since the yields have been in that territory. 30-year mortgage rates hit 6.77%, the highest rate in about a year. Moneylion.com analyzed pay increases versus cost of living increases over the last 5 years across America and found 30 states are losing ground. This is impacting the middle class more than anybody else. Folks in Massachusetts and New Jersey have lost 23% to inflation, while Louisiana and Mississippi gained a little ground with a 10 to 11% bump. In other economic news, government debt for the developed nations of the world has popped up another 6% overall this year. Fitch Ratings is forecasting a $4.2 trillion bump this year, of which the United States is at the forefront. Top debtor nations are the United States, with a forecasted deficit of 7.8% of our gross domestic product, which is the total market value of goods and services produced within America in a year. The United States is followed by France at 5% of their gross domestic product, Britain at 4.8% of their GDP, Germany at 3.7% of their GDP, and Japan at 3.1% of their gross domestic product. For the first 9 months of this fiscal year, President Donald Trump's spendy government exceeded the 9-month average of deficits for 2022, 23, 24, and 25, the 4 years for which President Joe Biden was responsible. The U.S. deficit topped $1.4 trillion for the first 9 months, and now is on track for a $2 trillion deficit this year. That compares to the Biden 4-year average of $1.67 trillion. That's a 20% increase on the deficit now in this first year of the Trump administration's fiscal action in his second term. Here at the Worldview newscast, Francis in Beacon, New York wrote, quote, Adam, I was very touched by the story of the McVita family in Great Falls, Montana, whose kids contributed $347 to their fundraisers on their dairy farm by making chocolate chip cookies, iced tea, and hand-crocheted puppets. What an absolutely beautiful family. I already have a recurring donation for the Worldview, but felt the need to do more to keep you going for another year. So I gave another $347. Happy to be one of the 108 listeners you challenged to step up to the plate last week, end quote. And Rachel Noland in Ames, Iowa wrote and said, quote, Adam, last week there was a massive bike ride across Iowa with 20,000 bicyclists who rode past our house. Our kids set up a lemonade, banana, and hard-boiled egg stand for the bikers. They are sending a gift from their earnings to the Worldview in 5 minutes. As a homeschool family, we listen to the newscast almost every morning at breakfast. We listen all the way through to the end and always say loudly with you together, "Seize the day for Jesus Christ." It's a great start to our day, reminds us to pray for the persecuted church, opens up conversations about world events, and keeps us informed about news from a biblical perspective. Thank you for what you are doing. My son Henry said, "Mr. McManus, keep up the good fight," end quote. And finally, by Monday night at 7:45 p.m. Central, 23 Worldview listeners stepped up to the plate and invested their treasure to fund the 6-member team behind the Worldview newscast for another year. Our thanks to Abraham in Ames, Iowa, who gave $10, Jason in Cypress, Texas, and Lauren in Lidditz, Pennsylvania, both of whom gave $25, as well as Henry in Ames, Iowa, who gave $30, and Ruth in Ames, Iowa, who gave $40. We appreciate Mary in Chaska, Minnesota, and Charles in Waxhaw, North Carolina, both of whom gave $50, as well as Rachel in Ames, Iowa, James in Kennewick, Washington, and Leanne in Zeeland, North Dakota, each of whom gave $100. We're grateful to God for an anonymous donor in St. Laverne, Minnesota, who pledged $12 per month for 12 months for a gift of $144. Mark in Eagle, Idaho, who gave $150. Richard in Arlington, Washington, and April in Post Falls, Idaho, both of whom gave $200, as well as Vendita in Pound, Virginia, who renewed her monthly pledge of $20 per month for 12 months for a gift of $240, and Forrest in Coarse Gold, California, who gave $300. And we were touched by the generosity of Michael in Santee, California, who gave $500. Our anonymous matching donor in Naples, Florida, who gave another $500. Susan in San Antonio, Texas, who gave $1,000. Bill in Middleborough, Massachusetts, who gave $1,000. Don in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, who gave $1,000. Larry and Sue in Crooked Creek, Alberta, Canada, who increased their monthly pledge to $100 per month for a gift of $1,200. And Megan in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, who pledged $200 per month for 12 months for a gift of $2,400. Wow! Those 23 gifts add up to $9,364. Ready for our new grand total? Drum roll, please. $71,747. That means, in order to hit our final goal of $123,500 by this Friday, July 31st, God needs to prompt folks to give an astounding $51,753 in order for the 6-member Worldview newscast team to be fully funded for another year. So, if you've been waiting until the last minute, this is it. We could really use your help. The finish line is in just 4 days. Count them, 4. Would you consider being one of 20 people to pledge $100 per month for 12 months or give a one-time gift of $1,200? One of 26 people to pledge $50 per month for 12 months or give a one-time gift of $600? Or one of 52 people to pledge $25 per month for 12 months or give a one-time gift of $300? Remember, the next 8 people who give a one-time gift of $500 will be matched dollar for dollar by our friend in Naples, Florida. Just go to theworldview.com. Click on Give, select the dollar amount, and make sure to click on the recurring button if that's your wish. And remember, if you want to continue your monthly pledge to the Worldview, that you started in a previous year, please let me know so we can count your generous ongoing gift toward our total. This newscast team champions the truth and uses the Bible as our plumb line. And we actually cite relevant Bible verses that come alive as we look at the news of the day. Plus, we report on the persecuted church, the battles for life, and a godly perspective on sexuality, often including action steps on how you can make a difference as a believer. What does God want you to give to sustain this one-of-a-kind newscast? Go to theworldview.com and click on Give. And that's The Worldview on this Tuesday, July 28th in the year of our Lord, 2026. Subscribe for free by Spotify, Amazon Music, or by iTunes or email to our unique Christian newscast at theworldview.com. I'm Adam McManus. Seize the day for Jesus Christ.
This has been a production of the Generations Media Network. For more information, go to generations.org/media.
Thanks for listening to The Worldview in 5 minutes. If you want to go deeper than the headlines and build a biblical worldview in your home, Generations has resources to help you anchor your family in truth. Books, curriculum, and tools for every stage of life. And right now, listeners get 15% off any order with the code WV5. Just use WV and the number 5 at checkout at generations.org. Thanks for staying grounded in God's Word with us every day.